up the tempo. Let me switch up the tempo. I wanna switch up the tempo. Can I switch up the tempo? Switch up the tempo. Can I switch up the tempo?
Alright, you guys, so this is going to be the sew-in portion. As you can see, I'm using some Beauty Supply hair, premium purple pack, 100% human hair, 10 inches, color 1B. So getting started, I always pierce through the braid, and then I pierce through both wefts. I do double weft when I'm starting out if I feel like doing one track. Really, Chris? Yes, you guys, Chris is right here while I'm recording. So I double weft. Yes, Chris, they hear you. They hear you. So I double weft and I pierce through both wefts at the bottom. I do that if I feel like it will be a lot fuller and have the true length if I do 2 wefts instead of 1 weft. So you guys see me showing you how flat it will be if I do both wefts. If I feel like it won't be flat, then I'll only sew 1 track along the bottom. But I have my own method for when I'm folding tracks over. I always fold. I don't cut unless I absolutely have to. I just feel like there's no point of adding excess shedding for no reason because all hair sheds. But once you start cutting those wefts, the hair is going to shed like crazy. So I try my best not to do excessive cutting because I don't want the hair to be shedding any more than normal. Alright, so you guys see that I was double wefting at first. Now I'm going to single weft. I drop one of those tracks and I continue to sew one of them, and then you guys will see me fold it over just so I can make sure everything stays flat. This is the method that I picked up along the way while doing hair. I did post it on my Instagram and Snapchat before, like as a little sneak peek behind the scenes of how I do sew-ins, and I did say that I was going to upload it on YouTube, so I'll get a little bit closer for you guys so you can see exactly what I'm doing. But I like to fold 1 weft over, and then I'll pick the second weft back up as I'm sewing. So you guys will see that here in a second. And right here, I'm just showing you guys how flat it is once I pick both wefts back up. When I am sewing, I normally knot the beginning of the track, the end of the track, and sometimes in the middle. I don't do a lot of knots. I sew around the track and around the braid. I don't sew through unless I'm starting a new track. I just feel like there's no need to have unnecessary knots throughout the sew-in. I've learned that it's harder for someone to take their sew-in down by themselves if you do a lot of knotting. They can't tell whether it's their hair or the thread. Even if you use brown thread, if you're doing a lot of knotting, it's very easy for the person to cut their natural hair. So I sew around and I sew very close together so that I won't have to worry about spaces or gappings in my sewing. You guys will see the method on how I fold the tracks over again right here on the side. As I was saying, I pretty much double weft until I get to the top of the head, or wherever I feel like it's going to be too bulky. That's where I'll cut the track. But I double weft pretty much throughout the head, and then I'll single weft at the top just to make sure everything stays flat. Here goes the method again. I drop one track and then sew the other, and then you guys will see me pick that track up again after I fold it over. Alright, so you guys can see that once I pick those 2 wefts back up, I'm going to sew above to the next braid, and then I'm going to come back down on that same braid and continue to sew. I do sew on one braid multiple times as long as I feel like the width of the braid is thick enough, because I like all of my tracks to lay really close together so that there's not a lot of gapping in my sew-ins. I curve the tracks going toward the face on the sides because I feel like it'll start creating layers in the hair. Being that I'm using 2 packs of 10 inches, it'll make the hair lay very one length once I'm done if I don't curve the tracks, because there's no layering of her wefts, so therefore I would have to cut all of those layers in if I sew back and forth just straight across. So I have to curve the sides going towards the face so that I can start creating layers, and it'll make less cutting when I'm finished. And of course, you guys will see that more once I get to the top of her head. I pretty much tried to record the whole entire process, even though I'm speeding it up. Some parts won't be sped up as fast as others because I really want you guys to see what I'm doing. Right here, I'm pulling out all those different colored hairs that tend to be in pack hair. They're called fillers. I don't know why they put all this yarn and crazy different colors inside the pack hair and don't take it out when they're finished. I just think it's ridiculous, and I always pull them out because I don't want, those strings just in my client's head. So right here, this is what I was talking to you guys about earlier. If these two front braids weren't as close as they are, I wouldn't be able to sew this track right along there and then go up for the bang. I feel like this is very important. When I end my thread, as you guys can see, I knot it about 2 or 3 times, and then I tie it off, and then I cut it, and then when I add the next piece of thread, I will just go back over where I knotted it off just to make sure there's no spaces. I personally don't like when the thread is too spread apart. I like to sew really close together, so I just go back to make sure everything is nice and neat and sewn flat. As you guys will notice, all of my flipped over tracks are folded very, very flat. That's really important. Not everyone knows how to sew the tracks flat when they're folding, so they decide to cut it. I just rather not cut. To each his own. You'll find methods that work for you. Sometimes it'll take a long time, but as you sew, you get better and you get faster. So starting out, I know people get frustrated when they can't sew faster or braid faster, but just word of advice, you guys, the more hair you do, the faster you will get. So don't worry about speed starting off. Of course, no one wants to sit in your chair for like 5 or 6 hours for a sew-in, but they have to realize you're just starting out, and once you get better, you'll be faster. You want to make sure your quality is very good before you worry about speed. If your quality is good, then you can work on speed as you do more clients. And if you're wondering how long it takes me to do a sew-in, it really depends on the sew-in, the person's head, like if they have a bigger head or a smaller head, but it doesn't take me no more than 3 hours to do a sew-in. So it typically takes me 2 to 3 hours to do a sew-in. That's with the cutting and styling included, and the cutting and styling is included in all of my sew-ins. I do not charge extra to cut or style the hair. The cut and style is included in all of my services, actually. I really have, I feel like now I have set prices for everything, and I'm comfortable with my prices. If you guys would like to book me or want to know what my prices are, my website is linked down below in the description, so you guys can browse my website, see what services I offer and how much they cost. At any point, if the price change, I do send out emails to let everybody know, like, any changes. I do send out a booking policy notice and all that stuff. So I like to be very business savvy and very professional. So now we're at the top of the head, and I'm just sewing that last track across before I do my final track. And right here I am gonna cut the weft because I want it to lay super flat. I sewed on top of another track just to make everything close together, so I am gonna cut this once I'm done, and then I will do my last final track going across, and I'm gonna do that very slowly, and I'm gonna sew really close together so I can make sure that it won't move at all, because the top braid can loosen up quicker than the rest of the sewing, because that is the part that people normally flat iron and curl all the time just to make sure their hair is blended. So you want to make sure you sew the last track very close together and neat, and plus you want to have a flawless finish anyways. Alright, so right here you guys see me step over to the opposite side so that I can sew the track towards me, because sometimes when you're sewing the last track, the braid will still be showing, and you don't want to sew two tracks on this last braid because it will be bulky. So if you sew towards you, then the track will cover the whole braid. So that's what I'm doing. I pull the weft really taut and I sew towards me. Alright, you see that flawless finish right there? That's how you close off the last track. And now we're going to get to the fun part, the blending process. I am going to add oil to her leave out because I put oil throughout her scalp when I braided it. So I am going to put it on the leave out as well. And I'm also going to put oil on those flyaways at the top of her weave because I want to make sure everything lays super flat. I don't like staticky hair or flyaways. It just makes the style look frizzy. So I do put oil on it. I'm flat ironing her hair on 350 degrees. I don't want to over process her hair. Because she has thin hair, you don't want to flat iron it on a really high heat or it will start burning her hair. So I'm going to flat iron on 350 degrees and I'm going to use smaller sections. I will flat iron her weave first because that sets the tone for the blend. You want to flat iron everything super flat and then blend her weave into it. And you will also see me rubbing oil on her leave out as I flat iron it just to make sure everything blends. You guys will also see me curl her hair. I am not flat ironing her whole head and then curling it. I'm only flat ironing it the top tracks just to make sure everything blends. That helps with blending. I'm not going to take too much length off her hair. I'm just going to cut her bangs and then curl it. And you guys will see me comb out the curls and we'll be all finished. Alright, so I do not curl in the front first. I always start by the ear and then start layering my curls on top of each other. If you start in the front, you'll mess up the front curls as you're trying to curl the hair behind it. You guys will see I'm curling in layers so that everything falls the way that I want it to. Kind of like a flared, bumped bang look. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but I like the 1920s type of curl. And in the back, I'm going to do something like waves. This is everything all curled up. Once I comb it out, you guys will see that everything will fall and blend seamlessly together. If you want to keep more of a defined curl, do not comb it all out. Just finger comb it. But I want hers to be more of like body waves. So, or body curls, you know, either way. But it does look like I curled it with a curling wand because of how I curled it. So you guys will see me rake through it with a wider tooth comb and then smooth it with the fine tooth comb. You do need multiple combs when you are working with curls. I just like to keep everything nice and even. It will appear like her tracks are showing until I finish combing her leave out. And then you guys will see the finished results. It was just so cute. I loved it. Y'all, my mom is so popping. Like, shout out to you, Mom, for sitting for this process while I recorded this video. You the real MVP. But you guys were all finished. I will see you in the next video. Bye, Slay Dolls.
You remember the time when we fell in love? Cause I remember the night when you had enough of my creeping.